I just wanted to start out by addressing the elephant in the room. As we close this, as we grow in fame and fortune, we we knew it was inevitable that at some point we would be subject to some controversy on one of our most recent episodes. So that's what I wanted to share, and kind of just want to settle it here and say, as the WhosRecords team, we were in the wrong. So let's share the screen here.
I was wondering if this is where you're going with that.
And let me know if you guys can hear this.
Here,
Yep.
pants out of it, and a T at the end. Parents here.
Oh man,
Wow, I feel like a fraud.
life changing.
With a pants out of it, and a T at the end.
Oh,
Parents here.
So
Neil Peart.
Reddit was right once again.
Wow.
there you have it.
we
folks.
did it.
And I'm a
Unbelievable.
fraud.
Not Pert. Case closed. Done and settled. Any of you
Peart.
guys have anything to say for yourselves?
I just want to say I'm sorry.
Yeah, I
for the Russians.
apologize.
There you go.
I want to apologize for my actions,
Never do it again.
my words.
I know you
They've
guys looked
offended
at me
anyone.
to be a voice for our community, and I just want to let you know that I fully
wanna
accept
come.
any wrongdoing here.
I know that we speak for the music community as a whole, all lovers of music everywhere, and we didn't. These mistakes happen, and we're just gonna roll with the
We're gonna-
punches, and
we're gonna grow.
and adjust.
And if
We're
this
gonna
means
get
we
better.
have to do another Rush episode, as repentance, then okay,
I
fine.
guess.
Yeah.
Darn. Throw another S
You
on
got
the board.
me.
Darn.
Shucks.
All right. That was fun. Thanks for playing along.
Yeah, speaking of throwing S's up on the board, not this album.
Oh,
Wow, coming
Out the
in
gate.
hot. Coming in hot. Okay.
Surf's Up by the Beach Boys. Does anybody know anything about the Beach Boys?
I know that they were around, I think around the time that like Rubber Soul came out, the preceding years and the succeeding years around that time was kind of when like the Beatles and them were considered like neck and neck as far as the stuff that they were releasing. With like Pet Sounds, I think, coming out right before or right after Rubber Soul. But other than that, I don't know a ton about them. I think they started off like a lot more, I guess, mainstream, like the Beach Boys, more of what you would think of when you hear a band called the Beach Boys. They were way more, mainstream and poppy and consumable, and once you get to the stuff like this and some of their later stuff, it's not that there's no good stuff on this album, but it's way more focused on some specific message or theme. Anybody else have anything about the Beach Boys?
Yeah.
When
I can
did
say-
Pet Sounds come out?
1967.
67.
'67.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Yeah, so that right
Somewhere in that
right in
sphere.
line with like you've already compared them to the
66,
Beatles.
actually.
Yeah, and that makes sense because that would put them like not. I think that was the same year. Rubber Soul was either 65 or 66, I believe. So kind of an apt comparison. I feel like a lot of people would compare these two bands. Throw the Monkees in there as like another kind of like
Yeah, the actual
poppy-
American Beatles, so called.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, another poppy, like harmonies driven band, and at that time what would probably be considered as a boy band. I don't know a ton about them though.
Yeah.
Well,
I mean,
I could say a little bit more about the Beach Boys, just that
Go
it's
ahead,
like
Dan.
the three brothers, like Brian, Dennis, and Carl Wilson, and you kind of have like two different eras. Like the Pet Sounds, really like pop oriented commercial. Probably when they had the most commercial success was like when Brian Wilson was leading the group. He was doing most of the writing, like pretty much all the hits were written by him. Kind of culminating near Pet Sounds, he started to get like disillusioned with touring and kind of really took a major backseat. Had some mental health issues that he had to sort out. But he did write some songs for this album. Like he was still present, but not as prevalent. And Carl Wilson took over writing like a bunch more songs on this album. And I guess like really what I know out of this era is of the Beach Boys is like Kokomo. Like I know Pet Sounds and I know Kokomo, which is in the 80s.
Mhm.
Like there was a long period where I think the Beach Boys were kind of shelved, and we kind of picked one at the beginning of that period.
Deservedly so.
Yeah, which I think we can just get right into.
I will say, I guess, about the album in general, uh, the cover, I think the cover art's cool. I don't like, I don't know what you would call it. I guess it's juxtaposition between like, it's like a surf album, but then they have this is like a painting of some statue or something that was made in reference to the Trail of Tears.
It looks like a guy
And
and a horse starving.
yeah.
It's so depressing.
You know?
But yeah, it's so depressing, and I don't know, I feel like a lot of the album is very like, oh, like it's a very happy
Absolutely.
vibe,
Yeah.
like the musically, and then they're just talking about really,
Yeah,
you know, world is ending type stuff. The whole world
exactly.
is going to shit. And I think that can be good in injections, but it's kind of
Yeah.
weird to listen to, I guess, as an entire
Well,
album. But
I
you know.
definitely wanted to bring up that like they definitely have the happy-go-lucky vibe, but the lyrical content on this album is like pretty dark. Like even
Yeah.
one of the lead singles, Surfs Up, like the namesake of the album, is like pretty philosophical, like about like fame and I don't know.
Hmm.
It just is. It's really dense. It's way more dense than I would have expected, like going into this album. Because really, my favorite part about it is like all the vocal and the harmony work going on. Like the Beach
Yeah.
Boys definitely still held that down. Like I had a lot of fun listening to all these harmonies, like thinking like, oh shit, I wonder if I could still sing that, you know?
Yeah, I
Since
mean,
I
this was
did
a very like experimental time in music, and you know, as one of the big names at this time, like they were at the forefront of that too. Even if I don't love all the songs on this album, they were still doing some pretty cool stuff, which I'll get into when I have my take on the album. But yeah, who wants to go first?
I was just gonna say you're talking about like the kind of the juxtaposition and the darker themes and kind of that like questioning the world's existence. A lot of people don't know this, but they actually went on after this album to become a grunge band. Um, uh, no,
Huh.
that a lot of that was obviously over my head, and I could in terms of lyrical concepts and everything, but so I'll start. I feel like I don't have a ton to say about the album as a whole. And it's been a while since I listened to it. I mean, we've been sitting on this thing for like 3 weeks, which is mostly because of just scheduling conflicts, I think. But I think certain other albums maybe would have made us a little bit more excited to discuss. So experimental is a good word for this. And also, we've already touched on the fact that it's definitely a lot different compared to what you would normally expect of uh, the Beach Boys, with Pet Sounds being the best example. And I was just looking at Pet Sounds discography, and the first song is "Wouldn't It Be Nice," which is like a prototypical song by them. Um,
Yeah.
so yeah, I don't know. I mean, I was pretty underwhelmed just in the sense that like I didn't really think that there was any song. I mean, do you guys think that there was any song that you like? Like, if you listen to it on Spotify, was there any song that you
That I liked at all. That
Yeah.
wasn't
Yeah,
absolute dog water.
yeah,
yeah, actually.
Yeah, there were a couple songs that I liked on it.
Yeah.
really?
Yeah.
Okay. So I mean, like, I thought Disney Girls was okay.
Good pick.
That's
Yeah,
so surprising coming from you. But
Yeah.
really.
I think I would definitely pick that one, but Seamus. I like it though.
Yeah. I don't know. There was just a couple guitar licks that stood out to me, and I
Absolutely.
think
The
there were a
piano is
couple other.
amazing.
Yeah, there were a couple other things in this point in the album, like around that point, that I thought was interesting. I thought student demonstration time um was was cool. I think there was like one of the experimental things that they do is like some of the extra sounds that they put in the background that aren't really like instrumentation and so much as like again just like sound effects.
A sound effect, yeah.
Yeah, so could have done without that. But in terms of like, I kind of figured just with the time that this album came out and the song title that that one might take on a little bit more of a protest type of mood and uh I thought that I mean that's a theme in a lot of rock music that I like, just that kind of any type of protest or stick it to the man.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Like I kind of expect protest songs from like CCR or like Buffalo Springfield. It kind of seems weird seeing a protest song from the Beach Boys.
Yeah.
Right, 'cause
Protest
again,
song
like,
about Vietnam, no less. You know?
yeah, and that whole like uh pet pet sounds sound that they were going for, definitely you wouldn't expect there like if you listen to that, you wouldn't expect there to be any kind of like political insight on any of their other work. Um, other
Yeah.
notes that I have, um, I just have written a day in the life of a tree, hard pass.
Yeah,
Um,
agreed.
but
Fair.
honestly, yeah, and then there was like I thought in Long Promised Road that lead guitar tone in and especially in the solo kind of had like a Beatles tone to it. It might have been maybe like the tone of the guitar they use in the end that it reminded me of. I'm not sure. I'd have to give it another listen. But on the whole, right again, like the album didn't do a whole lot for me. There's nothing that I saved from it. I would like to go back and listen to that middle part with Disney Girl Student Demonstration Time. Uh, Feel Flows had some cool usage of the flute in there.
Oh,
But
yeah.
at the end of the day, I just kind of thought, okay, there's the pronounced harmonies that they're known for, that they're iconic for. And then musically beyond that, there wasn't really much that stuck out to me.
Fair, fair.
Nice. About what I expected.
Yeah,
Pretty on brand, I'd say.
honestly pretty maybe even nicer than I expected, to be honest. But
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, maybe.
Well, let's wait until we get to the lyrics.
Yeah.
fair. I'll go next. I think this album's okay. Um, let's see. Starting from the top, Don't Go Near the Water. So I have a couple things. I think the ordering of this album is pretty terrible. And I think the opening song is just a terrible opening song. I wish so when I listen to
Yeah.
this album, I
Agreed.
listen to it on Spotify and it loops automatically. And when Don't Go Near the Water came back on at the very end, I was like, wow, this is a great closeout song because it's way slow. It's slow. It's one of the better songs in the album, which is not really a good thing. um, but I feel like they should have switched the place of Surf's Up and Don't Go Near the Water. I think the beginning should have been the end, and the end should have been the beginning. And in a thematic album like this, I mean, Seamus doesn't listen to the lyrics, but if you listen to the message of what's going on, when you write something like this, you almost want to structure it like an essay or a thesis. Like, what is this going to be about? And then like, songs about it, and then like it's something to close it out. I mean, that's how good albums are. Like they're cohesive and they tell a story.
No.
And I don't like the ordering of this album. I don't really think it does that well. I think Don't Go Near the Water is an okay song. Long Promised Road I don't like total miss. Take a Load Off Your Feet is, I don't know what that is. Like that is literally like
An abomination.
stopped doing The Wizard of Oz, and they're like, oh, write a song about absolutely nothing.
There was some weird
Write a
like
song about
Waluigi
feet.
noise at the end of it too.
Yeah. Disney Girls I also thought was a good song. I think the middle of the album is the best part of the album. So I agree with you there, Seamus. I think Disney Girls is a good song. I think Student Demonstration is Time is a good song. And I think the guitar tone in that song is sick. And
Hmm.
I personally, I like the sound effects. It kind of reminds me of like old school hip hop where they're just like throwing in sounds that are relevant to what they're talking about.
Yeah.
The song is in reference to like I don't, there was some like student protest in, I think they say like May 4th, 1970.
Penn
And
State.
it was at Penn State?
Kent State.
Kent State. Yeah. Yeah. And the National Guard was brought in and they ended up like firing on like unarmed college students and killing a couple people and injuring some more. So I guess it was kind of like a reactionary song to that. And I think it's one of the best songs in the album because, you know, it kind of follows their attempt to try to be like relevant to the times, and also the song actually sounds good, which a lot of these songs are not that great musically. I think Feel Flows is also a pretty good song. They do some interesting stuff on that one. I like the drums, and I think on Feel Flows they're doing this super interesting thing that is you know um, used a decent amount in modern music and more like trippy and psychedelic stuff, where it's called preverb, and they'll record the vocals and then they'll play them backwards through a reverb, and then they'll flip them again,
Yeah. Interesting.
so that there's like every time they say anything there's like a build up to it. And it's a pretty cool effect, and I don't know how many people were doing something like that at this time, so I thought that was pretty cool.
Sorry, do you know if that's like an effect that the Beatles use on a song like Tomorrow Never Knows?
I'd have to listen to that song, but yeah, I don't know it off the top
But
of
did
my
the
head.
Beatles, I mean, do you know, like,
They definitely have used that vocal effect,
Yeah,
I would
they
say,
they
you know. They're the
yeah,
Beatles. They were also like cutting edge on production techniques and stuff.
Mm.
So
yeah.
well, listen to that song, actually, then. Pretty sure I'm right.
yeah.
Looking at Tomorrow, the Welfare song, I thought that was also a pretty good song. Day in the Life of a Tree. Okay, here comes a hot take. So I was driving around today. It's a beautiful Sunday, sunny outside, sunroof open, windows down, driving past like I don't know what arboretum it is, Morris Arboretum or something. I don't know what it was.
Either that
Oh,
one.
yo.
And it was just pretty, and I was just listening to a song about being a tree, and it was, you know, it was kind of a vibe. Like it's not a song I would ever listen to like sitting at my desk like doing work, or just like doing anything. Like I would never listen to the song other than it happened to play while I was driving by the arboretum, and I was like, yeah, trees are cool. um
I think it's because you like audiobooks. I feel like an audiobook,
yeah,
like children's
yeah,
book reading.
yeah, I listen to children's audiobooks in my free time.
Okay.
um So I thought it was a decent song. It's definitely not for everybody, the pacing and the messaging and everything, but I thought it was decent. Till I Die, I think um was on the weaker side. Probably the weakest side on the latter half of the album, besides Surf's Up. I don't like Surf's Up at all, which I'm surprised is one of their singles, or they released as a single beforehand. And I think it was the only one that like charted as a single too, which surprised me because I don't like that song at all. Um,
Wow.
but yeah, I wish it went Till I Die and then Don't Go Near the Water and then closed out, because Surf's Up is trash. And yeah, I just the album's mid, but we'll get there later. Those are my takes on the Beach Boys Surf's Up album.
Surf's Up, the song is not as surfy as I expected.
Exactly.
No.
Yeah, I think that was
Good
like their
correction about
intention,
that.
I guess.
Not as
They
what?
like named
Shannon?
it that
Yes.
kind of as a joke.
Yes.
Well, it was going to be
Which
named something else originally, the album. It was going to be named like,
Landlocked,
yeah,
Oh, yeah.
Landlocked.
Yeah.
which kind of is a
Oh.
little more fitting.
Okay, so
I
they were
like that
directly
title.
playing on like the fact they were going in a different direction than what they had previously.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So you hear Surf's Up, you expect, oh, Surfin U.S.A. But now it's like this depressing look at humanity as a whole, you know?
Yeah, I think, I think there's a right way and a wrong way thematically to approach like just being completely off your rocker. And the cover art not aligning with the name and not really aligning with the message of the album, because the album's more about environmentalism. Of course, there's the student demonstration time, which is related to the Vietnam War and protests and stuff. But like, I mean, don't get me wrong, the Trail of Tears is awful, but it's, I don't know. I don't see the. I think they're a little all over the place for my taste.
You don't see the relation in that to like what they're really going for this album here. It's not like the cover art was something more protesty.
Yeah.
Or it's not like it was like a scorched earth or anything like that to discuss environmentalism. It's
Hmm.
like you would think it's like political and anti-U.S. government, but not necessarily even anti-war, but like maybe anti-imperialism and stuff. And again, student demonstration time maybe overlaps on that a little bit, but the album as a whole doesn't, according to the lyrics
Yeah,
as described by you guys.
I think one of the big things in making things make sense is like when you're writing, whether it's music or something else like poetry or whatever it is, you can't really mix metaphors too much, or it's just going to get arbitrary and confusing and not make sense. And they're pulling from
Yeah.
like 20 different I don't know, veins in this album, and
Yeah.
Yeah, I
I'm a
think it
little
ends up
lost.
being way too dense.
Yeah.
In a confusing way, you know.
Yeah, that just makes me think of like maybe like high school poetry classes when we were kind of asked to like write poetry, which is just like God bless whatever English teachers had to read that fucking that nonsense. Oh my God. But
Yeah.
yeah, because I feel like like if you're trying to write something like poetry for the first time, you're just like cramming things like different metaphors in there and stuff because
Yeah.
you're like, oh, this is what poetry is. And it's like, no, like
Can't
less is
brute
more
force it
sometimes.
like that.
Yeah. Yeah, less is more sometimes, which is a concept that we've described musically too. You know what I mean? It's not necessarily beneficial to have 10 instruments instead of three. Everything's all
Yeah.
about how you. So.
Like on the Phil Collins album, everyone liked Long, Long Way to Go, which was like the sparsest song by far on the album. But it ends up being
Mhm.
very ambient and, you know, works extremely well in that way.
Yeah.
Someone like Billie Eilish got famous for like using very little, you know.
I
Good
don't know.
old Billy.
Got to make a
Yeah,
modern
I mean, to
reference
be honest,
to the
I
fans.
don't really either, but
I cannot
but
tell
it
you.
sounds correct.
Billy makes bangers. All right.
Yeah, no lie.
Not really
Anyway.
on meaning radar.
Yeah, and you mind going last? I don't have a lot to
Sure,
say.
go for it. Go for it.
Okay. Yeah, I don't have a lot to say. I kind of liked it, but my expectations were on the floor coming in. I do like how we talked about the juxtaposition at the beginning. I think I took the first half of it, the happy-go-lucky sort of sound, and didn't dig too deep into the lyrics, the themes. My experience listening to it, which was once, like 1.5 times maybe, was on the ferry. You know, I'm just sailing on the bay. It's
On
essentially
the water.
on the water. Yeah, yeah,
You
yeah.
went near the water.
I
You're not
went
supposed to
near
do
the-
that.
I did it though. I said, fuck the beach, boys. I'm
I'm going near the water,
going
bitch.
near the water. But anyway, the ferry, the boat, it's essentially an airplane. You know, the seating looks almost identical. There's just a bit more space, but you can go out into the back of it and sit on the deck and kind of look at the water. So if you can imagine that, me just
Yeah,
cruising on the bay, bobbing up and down, listening to this, and that kind of happy-go-lucky sound, you're like, oh, okay, this is kind of like what Nigel was describing with A Day in the Life of the Tree. It's like, okay, it's okay, you know, it's kind of a decent vibe.
Mhm.
But I felt like that went well with what I was doing at the time and the feel-good whimsical songs. So for me, it's actually kind of similar. Long Promise Road, I think, falls in that bucket, and I thought that was okay. And then same as what Nigel and Seamus said, Disney Girls is one I picked out as well. And yeah, other than so probably a side one favorite for me, side two not not too much to say on my end. And honestly, overall, it was probably one of the most forgettable albums we've done thus far, in my opinion. But obviously, that'll come from the ratings.
You've basically just said that this album is okay if you're stuck on the water and have no ability to get away.
My takeaway was that boats are pretty much airplanes.
Learn
Yeah.
something new in these
This-
episodes.
This album is like you're Odysseus strapped to the mast of your boat, but the sirens are not singing good music.
Just
Yeah,
singing the
instead of
Beach
being
Boys.
instead of being lured to them, you're just kind of like, huh. I mean, I could probably go over there and be okay.
Yeah, seems
Hey,
all
man,
right
it's
over there. I'm
probably
fine
the
here
best,
though.
most accurate review. So I might win that award for this week. Depending on what Dan's got.
Succinct, brilliant.
Yeah.
All right, well, should I talk about it now? So we go.
Take it
All
away.
you, man.
Yeah, everyone kind of really summed it up. Like I came into it with kind of lower expectations. Like I really only know Pet Sounds, and I've heard like other Beach Boys stuff, and like as a singer, I really like all the harmonies and all the vocal work on this album. Like I don't think that part of them was ever bad. But I can listen to it for that reason, and I can listen to the Beach Boys for that reason. But to just kind of go through the songs, I kind of agree with Nigel that Don't Go Near the Water is a weird opener. I also think that like the vocals, like either the mixing of them or like however he performed them in the chorus are just like terrible. It's
Yeah.
really like abrasive.
Mhm.
Although there are good harmonies in the background, I think the song ends up being really abrasive and just doesn't work well to start an album. I listen to that, I'm like, what? This is what you got? I
Yeah.
gotta keep going. But it's a good song. Like I love the banjo and shit at the end. Like that was great. Like that works well as a transition. And honestly,
Mhm.
like Nigel said, it could have worked well as a transition out of an album.
Yeah.
But I like that idea that the song would work really well at the end. Because I do like it a little bit, Long Promised Road. I didn't think this was a bad song. This was like a Carl Wilson written piece. I do like the vocals on this one. They were mixed way better. But still, overall, like I wouldn't save this one. Take a load off your feet. No, no thanks. No, I didn't ask for this kind of song. I don't think anyone did.
Song is not
Brian
good.
Wilson just missed on this one.
His only no, sorry.
He had a
Scratch
few, a
that.
few,
Yeah.
but he was past the Pet Sounds prime for sure. But Disney Girls, like I really like this. Like this guy Bruce Johnson, who like collaborated with them on Pet Sounds a bunch, and like kind of sparsely afterwards, has this really great piano piece with vocals. Like it's kind of an amazing solo performance. Like everything they add kind of works with it. But like if this was just piano and vocals, it would be amazing.
Mhm.
And I sat at my piano and like looked up the chords and like played it for a bit. I was like, I really like this. The song definitely struck me. And there's a nice like build to it. Chorus, like he sounds really good on it. Beach Boys always sound good vocally.
Yeah.
Even on these weird songs, it's just like they sound good. But I agree that Student Demonstration Time is a really good stretch for the Beach Boys. Like it kind of comes off a little disingenuous, like coming from the Beach Boys. You may have mentioned that earlier, but I think it's still a strong song. Works well as a protest song. I think it was kind of like modeled pretty closely on a previous song, maybe from like the 50s. I briefly read about, but I think they do it justice. And then Feel Flows. I like some good flute, man. It's a great song.
Oh yeah, so
Really good
good.
guitar work, and I love the flute.
Goes absolutely off.
Yep, I love it. And the album just kind of starts like fading out for me. Like I really don't have too much to speak to on the last few songs, to be honest. Like Till I Die was kind of like also like stuck out to me as like another solo piece. Like I kind of understood the like listening to the lyrical content, like it works maybe on its own, but like I'm at this point in the album, like I'm just like tired.
Yeah.
You
Like what is this?
Until I Die into Surfs Up, I'm just like, wow.
It doesn't work at all.
Yeah. I don't know what they were going for, like as we discussed. It's kind of all over the place. but man, do their voices sound good on all these songs. But I'm definitely gonna pick out like Disney Girls, Student Demonstration Time, Feel Flows, and maybe Long Promised Road if it's lucky.
Yeah, I think those for me, those 4 songs in the middle, Disney Girls down to Looking at Tomorrow.
Mhm.
I think those are good songs. And I would listen to those songs, but I'll also say just to add on to what everyone said, I've listened to this album quite a few times because we've been listening to it for like 3 weeks.
Unfortunate
Yeah.
one to get stuck on.
Yeah, I mean, I had to take a break after like 2 listens because I was like, this is not a great album. But when I came back to it the past couple of days, I liked it more when I came back to it. And I don't know if it's just like an acquired taste type thing where it's just like all over the place. The first like
Mhm.
1 or 2 listens are just like you don't even know what's going on. But I definitely was able to appreciate it and enjoy it more.
There are a lot of ideas on here. Maybe the more you listen, you pick out
Yeah.
more, you know?
Yeah. But I'm ready to rate this thing.
Yeah, let's go. We got a lot of great albums on here. And I would way rather listen to the Seals and Crofts album than this one, to be honest. And everything above it.
Okay. Is it
Yeah.
C?
Wow.
Yeah.
What?
Is it a C?
Showstopper right there.
Yeah, bottom of C.
Bottom? Okay, not in the D though.
No. It's
Okay.
not that. I mean, it's redeemable. Like, just like we all had a lot of good things to say about the Seals and Crofts album, but I put it down there because I would listen to it.
That's a good album,
Go put
Seamus. You
words
need
in
to
my
calm
mouth.
down.
I like that album. Maybe it's
Is that
just my
Waluigi
taste.
sound?
Maybe it's just my taste, but like my justification.
It's one of the
for why
best
it's
albums
there.
we've listened to.
We listen to a lot of good albums here, but
That's,
everything above it is better.
So I would be inclined to agree. I mean, my only maybe point of contention for that is Seals and Croft that much better? I mean, because in my opinion, probably as likely to listen to one as I am the other. So, I mean,
Fair enough. Fair enough.
so basically, I just have to determine, whether I'd put it C or D, and I think D would probably be harsh. Just like given that Seals and Croft is in C, and given that it did have some redeeming factors, I mean, D is clearly proving to be an F category. So, yeah, I would probably say last place. Put it however far behind Seals and Croft you want, but and again, I mean, we could put it in front of Seals and Croft by my vote, but I don't think it's gonna land there. So, anywhere at the bottom of the table is fine.
Nice. I also think that the Seals and Croft is probably the best comp we have on the board right now, and it's funny how both of these
Not even close.
are going to be at the bottom of the table. I do think there is an argument for D here, and if you were to steel man that position, it would be what Nigel was saying earlier about the difficult kind of merging of the themes and the lack of continuity, and kind of just being a random hodgepodge of things, and just the product not being succinct or
Cohesive.
or cohesive at all. But yeah, I'd be fine with bottom of D. I'd be bottom of D. I'd be fine with D or below Seals and Croft. I'd be fine with above Seals and Croft. I just don't care.
B. This is B. This is not a B album.
That's what I said.
I don't know. I'm just gonna go. I don't know if everyone else has gone, but
You're good.
Yeah.
I don't. I've been here for almost every album on this list except for, I think, Big Pink and American Beauty, essentially London Calling. Like,
I miss London Calling.
I think I listened to
Nigel
half
might
of
as
that
well
album.
You just
I
listen
think
to it as
It's
we
way
record.
too long, man. There's like 26 songs on there. You think I'm getting through
Dude,
that?
so I put it in the group chat, I think, but Matt from our soccer league, who's I have a lot of commonalities with in our taste in music, he was like offended that London Calling was
Yeah.
the lowest B. I was kind of surprised by that. I like Give Him Enough Rope by the Clash more than I like London Calling, and that's a hot take because it is an iconic album. But yeah,
I think it's got a pretty fair placing amongst what we got here, but
I agree.
I get that a lot of people love it.
I think this is the worst album we've listened to. I think especially as an album, definitely the worst album.
I'd like that you brought up
Um,
that idea. Just said
I
all
think-
that idea is just not coming together.
Yeah. Like there are like 4 songs, as I mentioned, that are decent. And I think maybe there's 1 or 2 good songs on this album, like good songs. And that's like depending on your taste. That's not like an objective good, like many of these albums have many objectively good songs. Or at least as objective as you can get as a classic
with
rock
music,
fan.
you know, yeah.
Like, I talked a lot of shit about Chicago, but Chicago is much better than this.
Yeah, it's got some good ideas
That
on there, man.
is crazy because you slandered that album.
First time it's gotten praise. Nice.
Yeah.
We're actually building a
that's
good
how
list,
you know
man.
this
We're
album's
building a
not
good
going to place
list.
well. Contrary to what other people have said, I mean, Seals and Crofts is one of my personal favorite albums. I think it's an A album, so it's definitely below that.
Yeah.
So it's the bottom of the barrel, like as far as the stuff that we've touched. Whether you want to make that bottom a C or D, I think is irrelevant because there's nothing in D yet. I think it'll probably
Maybe
if we ever listen to something worse or better, then maybe it'll
Kinda where
shift
my
to
head was
D or
at.
to C. Huh?
What if
If we put this at bottom of C, we're gonna have to find something worse than this to make the D line relevant.
That's what I think. Maybe
That's
maybe the
true.
D category is like to be kicked off the list. Like that's on thin ice. We find an album that's like worse but still better. Surf Sex.
Okay, that's fair. If this lands in a D, I'm not offended. I think it is a D. And if you like some of the songs, it's a C. That's the way I would put it.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
the stuff that we talked about before, the thematic elements, the non-cohesive element, the fact that there's just literally throwaway songs talking about your feet it's not a good album.
Yeah, I would say that if we put this in D, which would make having a D category relevant, then what we've said about like the fact that there's albums that are bad enough that we wouldn't even touch them, that just solidifies that they don't even get on here. That's what the F category is for. Whereas if we put this in C, we're saying that D is again the F category, it's the lowest category, and we might not ever put one in D because there's so many good albums. I just don't know why we would subject ourselves to having to listen to one like this for 2 weeks. So I could maybe say top of D, and then
That's our baseline.
because honestly, even if you put this top of D, I don't even know if we're gonna listen to something like this, uninteresting again. You know what I mean? I mean, it sounds like while we had some good things to say about it, like nobody was really a huge fan of it. Whereas everything in C had like proponents for it. You know what I mean? Like Jack was a huge Chicago proponent, and Dan,
same.
yeah, Dan is too, and it still ended up in C. So I think looking at it that way, nobody's sticking up for this album. Unless that's what Jack's 20 minutes were supposed to be.
Yeah.
I bet he wouldn't stick up for it.
Oh, dude, Jack would be getting crushed on this list if he thought like this was a B album.
Oof.
Yeah.
I do think
so.
that's a good point, Seamus, because the albums in C, they're in C, but all those albums had someone who wanted it much higher than that. Whereas in this, it's like if everyone agrees that this is not good versus like at least having a controversial aspect of whether the album's good would bump it up to C. But I think this is a D album for me.
I think it's a good
It's our
way to
first
define
D.
the category. as something that like no one really sticks up for it in any way.
Damn, now I feel bad for it.
Unless Jack comes along and
Well,
yeah,
they
like
have
you
good
said,
albums.
if Jack
They
comes
do.
along,
Let's do Pet
and,
Sounds. That'll be an easy A for everyone, I bet. Maybe. I don't
maybe.
know.
Maybe.
It's definitely higher than D.
I think we are good with that though. I was just gonna say if Jack comes along and he does give it the low
Yes.
B or something,
Yes. So.
yeah, he rates it somewhere not at the bottom, then we can then
Yeah, I wouldn't be
what Nigel
opposed to
was saying.
discussing that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
someone
because
but
maybe it goes to C then, because then that whole point that we made about nobody fighting for it
yeah,
is
exactly.
is false. So the only other thing I wanted to bring up about the album is how we landed on it, because we had done, what were the two we did Phil Collins and Dire Straits, because they were the same year and they're both high on the charts, right?
1 and 2.
Yeah.
So this
Pretty
was
much.
71, and
71. Yeah.
we did the Pink Floyd one, and we said we wanted to see what else was that year, correct?
Sticky fingers.
Sticky
Yeah,
Fingers.
that's, I knew it was. Was this also near the top of the charts for that year?
It was. It wasn't top 2. It was
in the
like
top
top
15
10,
or 10.
15.
Yeah. I think
It
so.
was that high.
Yeah.
People
Right.
like the Beach Boys. They have like
I guess all
religious
the people with
followers.
good taste in music were in Vietnam.
Yeah.
They were listening to CCR, the good shit.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Fortunate Son, baby.
On repeat.
And that transitions into what we want to do next. I think the two from the same year was a cool concept, but I'm not really married to carrying that out, not for the next 2
No.
weeks.
We gotta come in hot.
After a D album.
Yo,
Yeah.
I said Boston. Boston's first album. Are you guys looking for an S?
Dude, if you guys want to just send another link and do it right now, yeah.
Been listening to that
I mean,
a lot.
So yeah, I mean, I'm never gonna say no to that, and I think it would be interesting to see where it lands. And
What year?
with the and 78 or
I think so,
75,
yeah. I think 8.
one of those two.
I mean, that sounds good to me.
Boston, for their first album, was 76.
Fuck.
Not a real fan. I
Not
do
really.
I do like the idea of at least doing like one other song of that year. So I mean definitely I'm definitely down to hit one of their album. Definitely down to hit Boston self-titled, and then try to compare it to
Presence.
something.
It was 76.
Is there an AC/DC album that year? Yeah, I mean 76. Honestly, when we were looking at albums
High
from
Voltage.
this year, yeah, that's right. Also, Highway to Hell may have been that year too, or was it the year after?
Dirty Deeds, also that year.
Ooh, another Rush
Wow.
album.
Crazy.
Get hit Aerosmith. We haven't touched Aerosmith.
Well, the good news is
Blondie's debut.
Ooh, well, Blue Oyster Cult, Agents of Fortune. I think that would be a
all right.
cool one.
This year is so much more promising than 71, because I was looking at the other albums from 71 and I was like, I wouldn't really rate any of these.
Inky, the Royal Scam came up this year. Is this the first Steely Dan album to get on the podcast?
He'd be the first.
Oh, I'd be down.
Do we just become a 1976 album
Yeah.
podcast?
Yeah.
Goddamn. You know what else I was gonna say though? The other thing I was gonna say, because there are some other good nominees from 76, so we could do 76, but another theme that I think of talking about Boston is the theme of self-titled debuts, because I mean you've got the Cars, you've got Van Halen, all
Dire
from around the
Straits.
same time too. Yeah, Dire Straits. And there's so many good ones. So
Boston though.
what was
We're
it?
doing it.
I think
Should
we're
we do
doing it.
Boston?
Yeah. No one.
Yeah, I'm down.
Nice.
Fucking say less. I'll start my homework right now.
I've been cheating. I've already been listening.
And I guess we'll aim for next weekend, I guess.
Yeah, next weekend works for me.
All right, everyone, hold your horses.
Yeah, if it's Sunday night, I might be like traveling in the afternoon. so I'd probably be around dinner after. But seems like that
Well,
should work.
the Eagles game is like 4 to 8 or some shit. So
Oh, okay. Yeah, sounds good.
What yeah, I could actually do Sunday morning next week. We don't have a Sunday game, but we can figure it out as we get closer to the weekend.
I'll be in Albany in the morning probably. Let me drive it back.
Gotcha. I was just gonna ask where you'd be. Yeah, we can talk about it during the weekend. So once again, Jefferson Airplane on the back burner.
Oh, it's a
Mhm.
good album.
oh, it's a build-up. It's a build-up.
Yeah. It'll be the last album we review.
Yeah, when we're like 80 years old, millions of followers. One of the original members of the podcast dies, and in memoration, in memorial, we
I
finally
was
reviewed the
literally
album.
gonna say the same thing.
Nigel passes away. We wanted to review the
Yeah,
album he's been waiting for.
We each need to
In
pick
memor-
a death memoriam album.
The YouTube thumbnail is the album, and it just says "In Memoriam."
Yeah.
Nigel J. Fox.
Seamus passes away, and we finally do Zenyatta Mondata.
Yeah,
Oh, it's
they
great.
finally do Alice in
Fantastic.
Chains. I feel like.
Oh yeah, true. That's on there.
Yeah, and Jack said that he couldn't make it. He didn't actually tell us what his thoughts.
Yeah, it's.
So
Oh, we were gonna
that'll
get
be-
some there. Some
Yeah,
new
he
ones.
asked what it ended up
Yeah.
as.
Well, it's a D, so
I just put it in there. So
Locked in.
maybe he'll type a message and we can say what he said.
Cool.
But
yeah. Let's watch the chat.
give
Watch the
5
chat.
seconds.
Well,
Yeah, no one tell him that the ranking hinges on his take on it.
We'll have to
Um,
tell him our thoughts on what D means if he agrees. And
are we waiting for his take?
we don't. I would probably.
Yeah,
Yeah, I don't
we
care.
we
I don't
can
need to do that.
bring that up at the beginning.
Yeah, that's what I was
Settle
saying.
the score.
He said LOL.
Yeah, I think
That's his
he
take.
agrees.
All right.
Um,
So Boston self-titled next week. And yeah, that should be a good one. That should be a fun one. We're gonna get another
I'm
S up there.
pretty excited for it.
Yeah, might be the S up there.
We'll see. We'll
Was
see.
it consensus? I wonder if he's not feeling it. But we can let him chime in at the beginning of next week.
Oh.
He agrees.
Yeah, I'm bottom of D.
All right. Yeah. Cut it.
He
Cut it
agreed.
there. Cut it there.
There you have it, folks.
Oh my. All right.
Shitty album. You heard it here.
Good stuff.
Don't
See you
listen,
guys
don't listen
next
to it.
week.
Listen, put Disney Girls in your summer like cookout playlist, I guess.
Yeah.
There
And
you
go.
take a load up. Take care of your feet. Take a load of your feet.
Remember to get Brian
Just
Wilson to watch.
throw it in a playlist just so you remember to be thankful for all the good music out there.
Just to rickroll the party that you're at.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Grind it to a halt.
You ever never want to touch the aux at a party ever again.
You can get permabanned.
Yeah, that's a permanent ban.
24-hour ban, permanent.
No more Bluetooth for the rest of the year.
30 to life.
You might have to turn your phone in.
All right.
All right, fellas.